What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA Show. We are back at it, Justin and I, after a pretty eventful weekend. We got to hang out. It was super fun. We're chilling in LA, and a lot of stuff, actually, surprisingly, even though it was just a small fight night, happened on Saturday. There's a lot of good news and a lot of good stuff to cover in the world of mixed martial arts. So we are back at it at a regular time. We gained some subscribers last week, which was super cool. I think we're now up to 365 subs, and we are very appreciative of all the support. That may not sound like a lot. Yeah, 366. We just got another sub. That may not sound like a lot to a lot of people, but every subscriber helps tremendously. So if you are watching the show and you're new to it and you think, hey, maybe these guys have something to say, please do subscribe and join along. Give us a shot. If you don't like it after a while, no worries. But we've got, of course, myself, Huzaifa, who's the big mixed martial arts fan, and Justin James, professional fighter. So that's where we have the expertise. We have the UFC fighter in here giving his expertise and words of wisdom on all things related to fight and combat sports. So anyways, Justin, how are you feeling after that weekend?
Oh, man, still recovering, man. Woke up early, got to the gym early, got a little bit of a headache, but hey, had a fucking blast at your crib, man. Thanks for having us. And like I said, it was a great time.
Yeah, Western Mass Climber says 366. Woo! Yeah, absolutely. Western Mass Climber's been here since the beginning, and Tehran is a regular as well. What's going on, boys? Not too much. Okay, so we got to start right at the top, and I'm going to give full disclosure on this. I didn't watch the UFC event. I actually had threw a little bit of a party in LA. That's what Justin came down for. So we didn't really watch UFC Fight Night, but I did watch this morning the main event. Man, oh man. Caio Borralho. There we go. Borralho. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. But man, if you guys haven't checked out this fighter, incredible striker. We basically saw Borralho defeat Jared Cannonier in more or less of a kickboxing match. And by the way, Borralho is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He went for one kind of late takedown late in the game. And then in the fifth round, he had really good top control. He was putting Jared Cannonier in a chokehold, almost like I don't know what it would be called, Justin, but he's pushing his shoulder into the neck of Jared Cannonier. But regardless, he won a dominant unanimous decision, nearly finished Jared Cannonier. And the thing that I was most impressed by Borralho was his calf kicks, the snap on him, the speed on him. I think he hurt Jared Cannonier's leg very substantially at the beginning of the first round. Anyways, it was an amazing fight. If you guys didn't have a chance to watch, you can watch it back on ESPN Plus. But anyways, we got Caio Borralho now. But I'm going to pull up the rankings in a second. Justin, I want to get your thoughts, first of all, on this victory, knowing what a top competitor Jared Cannonier was and that he was right in title contention. What is this victory? What does it mean to you for the middleweight division?
I mean, this is huge because I've never heard of this guy before. All right. Going on now, Jared Cannonier, he's been around for a long time. This guy is a battle-tested, tough motherfucker. And for Caio to come in and do what he did to Jared Cannonier really, really puts a staple at puts the division on notice. This guy is the real deal, guys. Keep your eyes open for this. Like I said, Jared Cannonier's been around for a long time. I'm a big fan. I love his style. He's an incredibly explosive striker. But for what this young cat did with him, this division's on notice now.
Now, the thing about Jared Cannonier, people don't realize, like, he's in such good shape. His cardio seems to be better than ever somehow. He's 40. He's 40 and he looks unbelievable. And by the way, I just want to take a second to talk about this. We see somebody like Tony Ferguson who's 40, and I know you always say it's not the age, it's the damage, it's the fights, it's the mileage. But it's just so bizarre to me that you can see Jared Cannonier looking sharper than ever, meaning his timing, his speed, his accuracy, the power which he lands those shots at 40, seeming better than ever. I mean, like, is this a common thing, or is Jared Cannonier just really an outlier in this case? Or can this happen? Yeah,
it's definitely not common for sure. I mean, there are, just special guys, when you talk about that special ability to last, Randy Couture went into his late 40s, competing for UFC gold. Alex Pereira, he's approaching 40 right now. But again, it comes down to damage. Jared's a really smart guy. He's in incredible shape. I'm sure in his fight camps, he's not taking damage like a lot of guys do early in their career. That's where you can have the success later in your career. Jared is a freaking monster of a man. He's in incredible shape all the time, man. And hey, who knows, man? I mean, he looks great still at 40, but how much longer can he look great at 40, man? It's you take damage like he did in this fight. I mean, that could have took some years off his career, and who knows, this might be the downfall of his career.
He got wobbled pretty badly. Borralho got wobbled too at one point. He was on kind of like wobbly legs, but then he got his composure back. I gotta say, man, Borralho, what a star, dude. He came to the post-fight presser in this crazy outfit with like flames and matching shoes and all this stuff. Like, he's got the swag. His English is very good as well. And he also mentioned, he's like, guys, my plan was, it sounds like he's got a great ground game, but he also wanted to be entertaining for the fans. My plan was not to grapple. I wanted to go out and put on a performance. I think the UFC liked it. I'm sure they did. Everybody's talking about the fight and saying how amazing it was. So it was cool. And I think we got a star in the making, a guy that I encourage you all to watch. In some ways, the way his stand-up looked, it reminded me a little bit of Paulo Costa. I don't know if you agree when you watch the fight back, if you feel the same way. But before we move on to the next topic, I want to take a look at the rankings. Now, if we see right here, here's the middleweight ranking. We got Strickland number 1. Caio Borralho is down here at number 12. Just beat number 5, Jared Cannonier. So we're probably going to see him shoot up to number 5, I imagine. What do you think would make sense for him next? I've heard some people say Imavov. I've heard some people say Vittori. What do you think would make sense for an up-and-coming star like Borralho?
You know, I'd really like to see the Marvin Vittori fight. You know, we have a high-paced grappler, wrestler in Vittori. You know, Caio has some great striking, and you know, he on paper he has some great grappling. But can he hold off the takedown? Can he stay off his back going with a high-level guy? I want to see Marvin Vittori next.
Another fight that was mentioned was Caio, which this makes less sense to me, but somebody said Caio versus Adesanya because he needs a fight. He needs somebody to match up against. A lot of these guys are taken. He's probably not going to want to fight Cannonier now after that loss. So maybe Caio against against Israel Adesanya. Although I feel like from the striking that I saw, unless Caio mixes in a lot of takedowns, I feel like Adesanya is definitely going to have an advantage. Do you have any thoughts on that matchup?
I think it's too high of a jump. I mean, we're talking about the former champ. Some people are arguing that he's one of the greatest middleweights of all time. Let this guy cruise in on a big win off Cannonier. Give him Marvin Vittori. Like I said, Marvin Vittori is going to bring a different style to the game. He's not going to be it's not going to be a striker's delight. This is going to be striker with some grappling versus grappler. Let's see. I mean, let's see if this guy's the real deal. Put him up against Vittori. If he can stay off his back and keep this fight standing, this guy is the real deal. And then we can talk about top 5 guys coming up.
That's a great point. Okay, well, there we go. Let's see what happens. Very exciting in the middleweight division. Middleweight division might be the most exciting division right now. I don't know. It's pretty wild at the top. It's a bit congested, but very good. Okay, now we're moving on to a very interesting piece. Somehow Conor McGregor keeps finding his way back into our discussion all the time, but it's actually pretty interesting. So Sean O'Malley, somebody you love, also started out in Fusion Fight League in Montana. Amazing fighter, somebody that has just grown on everybody because not only is he just a cool, fun guy to watch, but his skills are just growing and growing and he's becoming so dominant, so well respected. Now, Conor McGregor has been throwing some shade at him, especially over when he had that testing problem where he came up with a tainted supplement. That was a big deal for him. And it just came out now. Science was released, I guess, or updated saying that, yes, he definitely did get a failed drug test because of a tainted supplement. He's a clean athlete. Conor McGregor is still throwing shade at him, still trying to, I guess, talk smack to Sean O'Malley. So in a recent interview, Sean O'Malley was asked about Conor. Now, I've been watching a ton of Sean O'Malley interviews over the last week, and he's been lighting Conor up, but in a very sort of like laid back way, if that makes sense. So I wanted to show it to you guys. And then, Justin, I wanted to get your thoughts on this beef that seems to be brewing between the two. Let's check it out.
Sure.
Almost. Because, you know, you go back all my interviews, like I want to be like Conor. I want to fight. I want to do what Conor did. I want to do what Conor did. Now, you know, 29, defended the belt. Something he's never done, by the way.
See, just throwing out the little jabs. It's so subtle, but so good. Okay, let's keep watching.
And I just feel pure jealousy from it. It's really weird because from, you know, times change. You know, he's a little bit older now. He's on a 5-fight losing streak. He just pulled out because of his toe, which is just not Conor-like. So I feel a lot of jealousy from Conor McGregor, to be honest, which sucks. You know, I hope I don't get bitter like that. Like, I hope once my career starts, you know, maybe doing what his is doing. Well, I hope my career never does that. He's on a 4 or 5-fight losing streak. But, you know, I hope once I'm...
He's not on a 4 or 5-fight losing streak, but I love the exaggeration. And I think he's doing it, again, just to be funny. Anyways, keep going.
A little bit older and I see someone else coming up that I'm excited for them, you know, happy for them, almost maybe a mentor towards them, rather than just jealous and bitter because they have the spotlight and I don't. Like Conor could still come back, fight Chandler, and do big numbers, but it's like how many more losses? It's almost impressive. I mean, losses he can do to keep coming back and get people's attention. But speaking of big fights, that's a fight I wouldn't mind. I don't really call out big guys at 155, 170 because I know my role. I'm a 35er. But for me to be able to actually think I could beat Conor where he's at right now, I'm just being honest. I'm just saying the truth. I believe I could beat Conor McGregor. When your idols turn to rivals is a real thing. And that's, I've always praised him. Even after he took a couple shots at me, I was still like, God, I tried to hate Conor, but I couldn't. Right now, not a huge fan of Conor.
All right, so really interesting. A lot of subtle shots. He's also said in other interviews he kind of takes a jab at his drug use, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll have to see. He's gonna, do his thing, and then get back on Twitter and say some crazy stuff. So we'll have to see when he goes on another drug-induced rant, whatever. But he's throwing a lot of jabs. First of all, there is a big weight difference, right? We're talking about bantamweight, and Conor's essentially a welterweight for all intents and purposes, but he does feel confident. What does that say to you when we're talking jumping? What is that? 3 weight classes jumping up and he feels like he could beat him. First of all, do you think he could beat him? And second of all, what does that say about where Conor's at right now?
I don't think so. I think just the size discrepancy is just going to be a little too much. Again, we're talking about going up weight classes. When I've stand next to Conor McGregor before, he's a big guy, especially when he's on the sauce. He's a big guy, he's wide, and he has long arms. Now, when I stand next to Sean, now I'm not talking from a technical standpoint. I'm talking about from a size standpoint. I feel a lot bigger than Sean, even when he's in between camps. Again, love Sean O'Malley. I'm a big fan. McGregor, how could you not be a fan of McGregor, man? He's really grown on me, even through his discrepancies, I guess, per se, over the last couple of years. But I just think Conor's just going to be too big. And, I think he'd get in there and he'd try to bully Sean around. Now, again, I've been wrong before in these discussions. Unfortunately, I just think that McGregor's power, especially that straight left, he only needs to land it once to put out Sean's lights. But, Sean puts out a lot of guys too. So I give the advantage. I give a pretty well advantage to McGregor from the size and strength. And that's another thing. One thing to beat Conor is you got to take him in the late rounds. You got to get him tired. You got to get that exhausting wrestling pace. I just don't think Sean would be able to put a high enough pace on Conor to make him tired.
You know what's so cool about Sean O'Malley, though? The fact that he's 5'11 or 5'10 or 5'11, whatever his height is, in the bantamweight division, slowly throughout his career, as he gets older, he's still kind of tall for the lightweight division. He's still so he could move up to lightweight, and theoretically, if he bulks up appropriately, maybe he's got a bit of a smaller frame, but he's got a chance to be a triple champ, first ever, like Hamzat. I know you aren't too high in Hamzat, but he's got a chance. It's super exciting. His fight's coming up at the Sphere. That's amazing. By the way, one other thing I wanted to mention, we got a comment from Tron. I want to see if you heard anything about this. He said Makhachev versus Sarukian 2 is in the works for UFC 310 in December. Now, Tron, can you give us a little bit more information about this? Because from what I've heard is that Makhachev has a pretty substantial hand injury and that he wasn't going to be able to fight until after December, somewhere in 2025. But if you feel confident, I'd love to know where you heard that. But if that's the case, okay, if this is truly being lined up, and Tehran's usually been right on this channel, so I'm assuming he knows what he's talking about. But if that's the case, that 100% means Conor is not going to be fighting Michael Chandler in December. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I really still hope Conor at least comes back and fights once, but man, this is just looking worse and worse. Have you heard anything about that, Justin?
I have not heard anything about Islam. I heard he was injured, and he's not even in the talk right now because of his injury, from my understanding. But again, Tehran might have some insider information that we're unaware of.
Okay. Tehran says he heard it from Full Violence. So, okay, I'll have to check out the Full Violence. What is that, a podcast? Or I'm not sure. I know I've heard of Full Violence before, but I'll check that out and we'll look into it. But that's pretty wild if that's the case. Then we still haven't heard anything about Conor Chandler, and Chandler's been pretty silent. So I don't know. It's not looking great. But moving on to topic number 3. Now, this is something I heard on a submission radio interview over the weekend. So Beneil Dariush was interviewed by the guys, and apparently there's talks of Beneil Dariush fighting Paddy Pimblett. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up the rankings real quick. This would be wild if this happens. And Justin, I want to get your thoughts on this potential matchup, just because it's quite a big jump, and I don't know how the two would match up exactly, but here, let's take a look at the rankings just so we can see. Whoops, 1 second. Stop sharing, start sharing. Okay. So let's take a look at the rankings for the lightweight division. So down here, we have Beneil Dariush, who's dropped quite a bit. He's now ranked number 7. But we got Paddy Pimblett at the very bottom of the top 15. So that'd be 8-spot differential between the two. What do you think about this matchup, just in terms of the skills, right? Beneil is kind of a ground guy. Obviously, so is Paddy. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I love this matchup, and I'll tell you why. We got the old bull and the young calf coming up. This could be a passing of the torch. If Beneil Dariush cannot get by Paddy Pimblett, we really have to talk about where this guy's career is headed. Now, on the other hand, Paddy Pimblett, this is a great jump in competition. We talk about proving your worth. Beneil is an incredible grappler. He's an incredible wrestler. He's an incredible fighter. He has big
Yeah.
wins over Drakkar Klaus. He was one win away from a championship.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he's had a little bit of a slide. He's kind of on the back of his career. Now you got Paddy Pimblett on the other hand. He's an up-and-coming star. He's regaining momentum in the UFC. He's regaining momentum with the fans. This is a great fan favorite fight for the simple fact this could be the passing of the torch.
Yep, and I'm looking up some other interviews as well. By the way, Beneil Dariush says he thinks he's going to big brother Paddy Pimblett, this and that. I think it'd be a cool fight. We've also got the potential fight between Paddy and Renato Moicano, which would also be a fun buildup and all that good stuff. But man, if Paddy beat Beneil, we're talking Paddy's now in the top 5, probably, maybe top 6, whatever. But he's gonna skyrocket. Oh my! I think the UFC lightweight division is going to be so exciting once Paddy is really in that title contention picture. Even if he goes up and loses, but then he's in the mix and maybe goes up again, it's going to be so much fun. So I'm really excited to see that news. Hold on, it says right here, Tehran said, Beneil did an interview not too long ago saying he isn't going to keep fighting much longer. Oh, smoke. So, Sam. So basically, if he goes in and fights Paddy, that could, if he loses, that would suck for Beneil, but maybe that might be one of his last fights. And I bet you if Paddy goes in there, even if he loses, but does incredibly well, that's still going to boost him, I imagine, in the rankings. What do you think? Even like a good loss, do you think that would still bump him up, or that would drop him out of the top 15?
No, I don't think it'll drop him out, man. That's a big step up in competition. Obviously, Beneil will be the toughest guy he has ever fought. And if somehow he can keep it competitive for 3 rounds or 5 rounds, I mean, Paddy Pimblett's going to gain all the respect by me, because Beneil is a bad motherfucker. Like I said, he had a big win over Drakkar Klaus a couple of years ago. And I tell you what, Drakkar is a fucking animal. We're both from Michigan. We grew up, actually. I lost to him in the state finals my senior year of high school. So, man, to know how tough he is, and Beneil beat him, it's a big step up for Paddy. And win or lose, if he can make the fight competitive, I think he deserves all our respect.
Amazing. Okay, well, let's see that. A lot of exciting stuff in this division as per usual. Let's get into topic number 4. Now, there's again, a lot of these topics are more drama based, right? Because we just didn't have big. I'm sorry, Justin will probably be back on. I think he just got kicked off. But we have we had that that UFC fight night. The main event was pretty dope. So not a ton of crazy fight stuff to talk about outside of that main event. But we're talking about some drama. It is what it is now. There is a little. Oh, Tehran, by the way, says he's picking Paddy to beat Beneil. Wow. I wonder that would be insane. That would be, as much as we love Beneil, that would be incredible just in general for the UFC and for the lightweight division. But now we move on to this drama between Ankalaev and Pereira. So basically, what's happened is, I guess Pereira's been receiving a lot of backlash for quote-unquote ducking Ankalaev. Obviously, it's not his fault. The UFC makes the fights. They're the matchmakers. They had already match-made Ankalaev with Rakic, so that was already done. Are they protecting Pereira? I don't know, but it's not. I don't see how this is Pereira's fault. We're gonna come back to this point when we talk about topic 5 about Jon Jones in a moment. But anyways, the UFC already made this fight. Yes, maybe they're protecting Pereira. Obviously, they're giving him what we feel to be a favorable matchup. Your buddy Aaron, who's a professional gambler, says he gives Pereira a 85% chance of beating Khalil Roundtree. So, okay, there you go, right? That's from the odds makers. But anyways, Pereira's been receiving a lot of heat. He came out and he said Ankalaev, that he wanted to fight Ankalaev. He believes he's got the anti-grappling and the takedown defense, no problem to handle Ankalaev. And he claimed in a video that Ankalaev is the one that did not want the fight. Of course, Ankalaev responded and said that's absolutely false, completely crazy. I don't know who to believe. Justin, what's your take on this? Because I don't see Pereira coming out and making up nonsense. But what's your take about this fact? Pereira's coming out saying he wanted to fight. Ankalaev turned it down. Ankalaev saying it's a lie and he's going to come back and fight Pereira eventually. What do you make of all this?
What I make of it is, I mean, it's high school banter. Obviously, these guys are going, he said, she said bullshit. What probably happened was they probably tried to make this matchup work, and something happened that maybe something happened that wasn't really the fighter's decision. You know what I mean? Like Pereira was probably ready to go, but something with Ankalaev's camp, whether it had to do with him or not, something came up now. Well, he was off for the fight and he turned it down. And Ankalaev is kind of trying to defend himself, like, hey, listen, that wasn't really the circumstance that you're trying to explain, but he's trying to run with something. I don't see Pereira making something up like this. Making it up. I don't know Ankalaev too well. He hasn't been on camera. I haven't heard his interviews, but Pereira I'm a huge fan of him, man, and I just can't see him making up or ducking anybody, because ever since he's been in the UFC, he's always fought the toughest guys. You look at his resume, man, it's like UFC champ, UFC champ, UFC champ. Like, guys need to start giving this guy more respect. For Aaron kind of pisses me off a little bit when he's always like, oh, he's ducking Ankalaev, he's ducking Ankalaev. Aaron, shut the hell up. This guy is a world champion. He fights world champion after world champion. He's fought Adesanya how many times? 5 times? 3 times in the UFC and 2 or 3 times out of the UFC. Like, this guy does not back away from competition. I'm sure, again, there's some small dispute, but I'm really looking forward to this matchup because it's inevitable. This matchup is going to happen. Now, when you talk about Pereira's kicks, and Ankalaev has very bad, in my opinion, very bad leg kick defense. And that low calf kick, I really think Pereira is going to chew him up and spit him out when it comes to this fight.
Okay, so another thing I recently, and I'll tell you what I think happened, by the way. I think that Pereira was fine to fight Ankalaev. Maybe his team was like, yeah, let's set it up. Let's fight it. And I think maybe the UFC said, hey, he can't fight. Maybe because they already had something else in mind. Maybe he interpreted that as him saying he didn't want to fight. And maybe Ankalaev wanted to fight Pereira, but the UFC had other, that's what I think. I think
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I don't think that Pereira is afraid. And I do believe Pereira's team believes that they have what it takes to beat Ankalaev. Now, another thing very interesting that I saw over the weekend, I looked at some footage that was posted by Pereira's team of Pereira and your boy Sean Strickland sparring. Now, they had a great sparring match. After the sparring, Sean Strickland was like, wow, I've never been hit. He said this on camera. He's like, I've never been hit that much in sparring in my life. So Pereira was really tagging him. And then he made the comment. He goes, the way you stand with your leg when he's coming forward and throwing, he's like, you keep your leg in close to your body, which makes it very difficult. I don't know if this is just part of his style or what, but he said that makes it very difficult for somebody to shoot on him. So I guess what he's trying to say.
Wait. Who is it hard to shoot on, Sean or Pereira?
Pereira.
Okay.
Sean was saying, like, man, you make the way you kind of stand and the way you position yourself when you're throwing strikes, it makes it very hard for somebody to take you down, which I thought was super interesting, especially pertaining to the Ankalaev fight. I don't know if have you noticed anything like that? Do you feel like the way that Pereira stands a little bit taller and the way he positions his legs, that it might be more difficult for somebody to land a takedown, or have you not noticed that as in your observation of him?
I haven't noticed it, but then again, I'm not really paying attention too much. Now, when you talk like Sean Strickland in a sparring match, he can read these things as he's going. When you got someone standing right in front of you and you have an idea to do something and you're being prevented from doing that, it's easier to make these assessments. But from a casual fan, or even as me, like now, next time he fights, like I'm going to be looking at his stance. I'm going to be seeing what he does with that front foot different to avoid being taken down.
Right. Yeah, let's watch it next time. I thought that was really interesting. So yeah, I can't wait for this fight. I guess we're going to see him go up against Khalil Roundtree, and then hopefully we have the Ankalaev fight, or Rakic wins. Let's see Rakic versus Alex Pereira. Now, coming back to that point, right, we're going to go on to topic 5 where I said, leave Jon Jones alone. The reason why I made it this is, you guys remember years ago where that guy made that video, leave Britney Spears alone, right? Leave Britney alone. He's like crying. So I guess I'm that version now. So again, I want to go back to this notion where Ankalaev is giving a lot of heat to Pereira, saying he's ducking him and he's lying and all this stuff. We have to remember a couple of things about the UFC. Number one, the UFC is a business. So for better or for worse, when they're making decisions that people get upset about, they're trying to protect the bottom line. They're trying to make exciting fights. So sometimes they're going to do things that maybe certain fans aren't going to like, or certain fans are going to feel are not fair. But it's a combination of making the fights entertaining and also making sure the business stays afloat. Maybe if they think certain matchups are going to be bad for business long term, they have to kind of steer clear, because otherwise the UFC may go out of business, right? That may be a far-fetched possibility, but remember, that's what they are. They're a business. Now, when we come back, come back to Jon Jones. Tom Aspinall has been going off on Jon Jones, really giving him a hard time. There was a rumor that Stipe was injured. That was proved to be false. Stipe said, nope, that's fake news. He's good to go. And people continuously say, hey, but we want to see him fight Aspinall next. Dana White is being pressed at press conferences about that fight. No, I think Jon Jones is going to fight Tom Aspinall if he beats Stipe. but I don't know if I really believe him. I think deep down, Dana White believes that Jon Jones will retire, and I think that's what the UFC wants. For whatever reason, okay? This is my point, and this is what I want to hear your thoughts on. For whatever happens, okay, and whatever the motivations are behind it, whether the UFC wants Jon Jones to retire because they want him to be the baddest man on the planet, to take shine away from Francis, I don't know, or if there's other motivations, they want to give Jon Jones a great send-off, they don't want to push him, he's the old generation, let's let Tom Aspinall come, whatever it may be. Let's think about what we generally want from most fighters. Okay. We love the fighters. We see them rise, then we see them maybe get older, and eventually we want to see them always come out on a happy ending, but it's very difficult. Most of the time, the UFC takes older fighters and uses them, like we're talking about Paddy versus Beneil, uses them to build the name of younger fighters. And while that's all well and good and that's part of the game, a lot of times I think as fans, we feel bad for the fighters that are being used in that way. We saw it with Nate Diaz. We saw, you know what I mean? We see it with these, we've seen it many times with Tony Ferguson. So in one case now, we finally have in the greatest fighter of all time being treated well, given this matchup that maybe it's favorable for him, but it's still a fun fight, and then letting him walk off into the sunset undefeated. This normally should be like a great thing that we should celebrate. The UFC is doing right by one of the most popular, one of the most successful fighters in the history of the UFC, but yet people want to see him fight so badly when he's already done so much. So this is why I'm saying I think the fans need to leave Jon Jones alone. He's not the one that's ducking, but it's the UFC that's scheduling the fight. And even if he does choose to retire, why can't he just do that? Why can't he walk off into the sunset? Why can't we be happy for him? Justin, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with me, or are you like, nah, from the fighter mentality, he needs to fight Aspinall? What do you think?
No, I agree with you. But here's the thing I'm thinking of. If he beats Stipe and retires in the cage, is he going to be booed? You know, and we are talking about the new generation of fighter coming in. Tom Aspinall is the new generation of fighter. I think a lot of people want to see Jon Jones lose. I like I mean, again, I agree with you. Why fight Tom Aspinall? This Jon Jones has been around since like 2007. Like it's insane. Like eventually, everybody, Jon Jones, Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre. You talk about all the greatest fighters. Israel Adesanya. You know, like he was undefeated for 3 years. We talked Anderson Silva. He was undefeated for 7 years. You know what I mean? Eventually, if these guys keep going, they're eventually going to lose, man. And then there's going to be credibility taken away from them about their, you know, like Anderson Silva. Like people don't even talk about him as one of the greats anymore. Especially the new casual fan, don't even talk about him being one of the greats because he took so many losses towards the end of his career. You look at Pride champion Fedor Emelianenko. You know, he's taken a bunch of losses in the end of his career. You know, a lot of people, the casual fan, don't see him as one of the greatest. Let Jon Jones get this fight. Let him ride off in the sunset as the greatest fighter of all time.
Yeah, and think about this, right? As much as people are calling for, and he first of all, he may beat Tom Aspinall. I'm not saying he would lose to him. A lot of people pick him to beat Tom Aspinall. It's going to be one thing after the next. I feel like it's a never ending, you know, it's just going to keep going. All right, now I beat Tom Aspinall. Oh, now this fighter calls him out. Now he's ducking that fighter. Like at some point it's got to end. And people, I think it's a sad thing that Anderson Silva had those losses at the end, because to me, we've talked about it, right? He should be recognized as maybe the greatest of all time. I know you're going to do a video talking about that, and you can't just let the last couple losses just take away from that legacy. It doesn't make sense. It's not really right, but it does happen. What a shame it would be for Jon Jones to go up there. I mean, think about this. He's going to go up there. What if he did lose to Aspinall? Then what? He's got to end his career in a loss after this amazing, illustrious career. Or what? Is he going to go back and fight again? Then he wants to fight somebody else. God forbid he loses again. Now he's on a 2-fight losing. I mean, just let it be. Now, if he loses to Stipe and he wants to come back and fight again or something like that, fine. He's got the fight with Stipe scheduled. He's planning everything around that. Okay, fine. Then he can make the decision. But why keep pushing him into the fray? Like you said, I'm looking at his record right now. Hold on. His first fight in the UFC at UFC 87 was back in 2008, August 9th, 2008. That's 16 years ago. Okay, he's been in the UFC for 16 years ago. It's so annoying. It's so annoying, especially all these new fans. Like, get out of here. He doesn't need to fight. I'm so tired of it. I'm gonna make another video about Jon Jones expressing exactly this. But you're on my side, right? From the fighter perspective, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's ridiculous. Guys, if you guys have any comments on this, let us know. I think most people disagree with me, but I think if you logically step back and think about it, you would agree with me. So anyways, that's all we got to cover for today's show. There's another thing I do want to talk about at some point, which is Ariel Helwani's new move to Yahoo Sports. That's going to be very exciting for a lot of us fans who love Ariel's interviews. We're going to make a separate video about that, but that's going to be incredible. Anyways, UFC Noche, it's coming up. That's the next big UFC event on the radar. It's going to be massive. Cannot wait to see Sean O'Malley fight Merab. If you guys haven't gotten excited for this fight yet, you just haven't done your homework. It's going to be unbelievable and a huge test for Sean. So let's go. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Once again, we're at 366. We're on the climb. Let's keep it going up to 400. If you're new to the show and you're seeing it, please subscribe. If you did like what you see, make sure to click that like button. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you in the next episode. Take it easy.